Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take a quick look at Bitcoin, kind of see what's going on here today. And of course, if you're new to the channel and not a financial advisor, I just love teaching people how to trade. And I've got a trading community and trading academy rolling out with that month end, of course, to help you become a better, more efficient trader. So obviously learn as much as you can from these videos, but you can join my group and we all share in the delight of what's going on here recently, right? The misery loves company, if for lack of better terms, right? If you want to kind of call it that, because again, 20%, we're down 20%, I think 22% in under 48 hours, right? So it's another, May 10th, May 12th scenario, if you will. And of course, it's pretty much, it feels like December 4th all over again. Now, this is pretty standard, it's pretty normal. The market's terrible right now, so a lot of things are happening. And of course, the first thing to go is the secondary coins, or just in the secondary market, for lack of better terms, when the traditional stock market goes awry. So just be mindful of that. The likelihood of this just turning right around is pretty low. I do think we're going to see an economic downturn for a little while, and of course, cryptocurrency is not going to be exempt from that. All right. Anyways. Just that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the 1 week chart, work our way down. We're going to focus more so on the well, actually, we're going to do a lot. We're going to look at macro and micro, of course, kind of identify if there's a turnaround coming, but it's pretty likely it's not, based on what I've seen so far. All right, so starting with the 1 week chart, obviously we are well below the 50-day SMA, but the 200's pretty much well below us as well. So in other words, for lack of better terms, the 200 SMA is trending right around 19,300. It should be closer to about 23,000 by the time we get there if we were to. I'm starting to believe that that is a very strong likelihood, just based on the way that things have responded and reacted here recently. A lot of large wallets are coming out of nowhere. They're transferring money to their accounts, and anytime that happens, they sell and the price goes down lower. We're seeing that happen a lot right now. But furthermore, just kind of touch on this here as well with Fibonacci retracement. Based on the recent retracement, we can redraw this here in a moment. It basically tells us that 33,500, 31,500, and 29,000 are the respective zones or price ranges that we should expect a retracement to go to, right? Now, this is drawn out as 37,000 as the baseline because that was the previous support. Once again, we can redraw this, of course, but just to clarify, that's kind of the tentative support levels for the moment. Okay, 33.5, which is soon to be tested. That almost got tested here recently. I think we hit 34. And then, of course, 31.5 and 29 even. Okay, those are the more immediate dollar cost average targets if you were to. Again, only dollar cost average a small amount of your portfolio. Do not do large portions, right? A little bit at a time if you can go down there. Don't just buy the dip and hope it's the bottom, because hope right now is not even a factor. There's literally no hope. It's just all about making sure we understand how to minimize our loss. That's really what it boils down to right now. That being said, you can minimize your loss by not putting all of your money into an investment, right? And why invest if you don't have confirmation? Okay, so again, just something to kind of consider, of course. That being said, that's kind of where we're at here for the moment. So the 1 week isn't terrible, but it's getting worse, right? And the closer we get to 30 on the RSI, the better, the more likely we are to see a turnaround. But just bear in mind, if we kind of look at the history, we've seen close to 30 on RSI on the weekly, but it's been a very long time. In fact, we're lower now on the RSI than we were previously in the middle of summer when the price was actually at 30,000. And it's because we're falling from a greater height, if that makes sense, and we're falling fast. So it's just kind of it's a general, just try to understand generally that there's nothing positive about the macro right now. There's literally no sign we're going to see a turnaround. So touching on the 1 day chart, same scenario here. We're obviously still under the 50-day SMA until we break back above. We're still considered to be bearish. I think that'll continue for some time based on its current aggression as well as the market looking overall terrible. We're now officially under 30 as a strong under 30 on the RSI. And now we're close to about 20. Now keep in mind, when you get up over 20 on the RSI, up over 70. When you're up over 70 on the RSI, to say this was flipped around, a lot of times 70 works as a support level, okay? So let that soak in. If 70 is a support level, is 30 also a support level if you reverse the roles and we're in a bearish type of market? Absolutely. In other words, we're not out of the woods until we can get the RSI back under 70. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Over 30, right? If we're over 30 on the RSI, then we're going to be in a much better position. But generally speaking, if you're under 30 on the RSI, it's typically considered to be a buy signal, right? So I just need you to kind of understand that we don't have a buy signal right now. Even though, yes, it's obvious that it's extremely oversold and it's effectively a good value, it's not as good of a value as it will be or could be if the price were to continue further, if that makes any sense, right? So we want to let that RSI calm down and kind of retract and essentially wait it out, I would say, okay? Because again, we got significant bearish divergence here that's occurring. Even though we had a nice little uptrend recently, we have a strong push to the downside, and I don't think it's even finished, right? Just based on the overall momentum and the way that it's just kind of the bottom is falling out. The sky is literally falling for a lot of major investors, and unfortunately, it's impacting a lot of us too when we're kind of caught in the sidelines, expecting Bitcoin to be six figures when it doesn't and shouldn't happen for quite some time, right? Because again, you got to get this in your head. The likelihood of Bitcoin bouncing back really fast is very low. Because you take a look back here at the summer, how long did it take for us to recover from this decrease? All right, let's go ahead and just do a quick little understanding there. So in 1 week's time, approximately, Bitcoin dropped 50%. Okay, so roughly 1 week. That was a terrible week. Again, May 12th, and then of course the collateral from there. And right now, if we kind of look at this here, albeit it's not 1 week, this is more like 2 weeks. But you look at that in the last 2 weeks, we're down about 35%. Okay, so it's not free falling quite as fast as it did before, but it's consistently decreasing and just slowly pounding down. And that shift, that change adds duration to how long it's going to take to recover. Because we originally thought that this section here was something similar to right here, and the price were to come back up, right? Well, now that we lost that key level support at about 40,000, we're in terrible shape. In fact, it was actually 46,000 is what we lost, and that really sent things into a downward spiral. But we officially lost 40,000 and then 37.5. Those were two key level supports that worked very well previously as resistances. And now that we have those are gone, it's almost a free fall. And what I mean by a free fall, let's go ahead and clarify that here. When we look at the volume profile, right, let's go ahead and pull up the last year's worth of trading data. So this is roughly December 1st right here, or sorry, January 1st right there. We look at the volume profile, we've got the most amount of volume accumulation right at about 34,000 even, or 33.5 is a close approximate, because it's right there at the same Fibonacci retracement level. So the reason why that is important is because there's a large shelf after that falls off, right? So if we break 33,500 and come down to the downside, we've literally got one last support at 31.5, and then we're done from there. And I say done because obviously 29,000, of course, is still a support. There's literally no volume below 29,000. And if we go back even further, obviously there's a tremendous amount of volume accumulation at 10,000. That's before the price started to increase from Bitcoin in November. But if you see here, this little range here from roughly 20 to 29,000, there's literally nothing in there. I mean, there's a small shelf right at about 19.5. We could round up and say 20,000. There's also a small little shelf here at about 23,500. Again, not the greatest, okay? So heaven forbid we lose 29, we can just say round number, 23,000 would be the next potential area to consider to invest. So I'm a little concerned because if we break 29,000, that's going to be a big problem, because it's just going to be open season. The bottom's going to drop out, because again, there's low volume accumulation below 31,500, and that lack of volume is a significant problem, because obviously nobody invested at that price point, right? So it'd be kind of uncharted territory. It's the inverse of when you break an all-time high. We'd break this previous all-time low support, and then it would be just price discovery from there. Okay, so again, not trying to scare you or concern you, just give you the real facts here. The likelihood of that happening is much higher than it is for Bitcoin to bounce back and just to recover right away, right? This head and shoulder pattern is effectively coming to fruition. Yes, the right shoulder is a little bit slouched, but it is not the most ideal scenario here, which does imply also, if you consider this to be a head and shoulders pattern, that we should see 29,000 as well, because that was the lowest point previously before it bounced, okay? So again, I think the likelihood of bouncing off 29,000 is fairly high if we were to come down there. It may only touch down to 31.5 and then bounce. There's that possibility as well. But again, if we take a look at the volume, it doesn't look great. There's hardly any volume under 31,500. So it's going to be just like no reason for people to want to buy that dip, if that makes sense. Or at least the major investors are not going to want to buy that. They're just going to let the price continue to fall so they can get a better value, because they've already cashed out, right? They're sitting on their USDT or whatever it is they're using, because they've taken their profits, and a lot of us are the ones left over feeling the pinch and the pain. So why not stick it back to the man, right, and hold on to your money and make sure you wait for the right time to reinvest. Obviously, you don't lose it. You never lose your money if you don't sell. So if you're hodling right now, just consider it a hodl. Unfortunately, if it's a swing trade turned into a hodl trade, that's okay. We got to deal with that. But right now, we're just dealing with what we can, and there's not much else, no other choice, right? It's not like we can control the market or shift it back in our favor. But that's kind of where we're at there. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, the one-day chart, not looking good, well under 30 on the RSI. And just note that that is now considered to be a resistance level. So the price comes back up, it could work as a resistance, and it could keep the price under 30. So it's going to take some time for this to average out. For lack of better terms, we're going to take weeks to recover from this. And that's even to say that the price doesn't go any lower. If it does go any lower, then we can expect obviously even longer to recover, because that summer time frame took 2 to 3 months to recover from a 40%, almost 50% decrease in price. We're trending about 35% decrease in Bitcoin in only 2 weeks. So again, it's less of a severe drop, but we still need to recognize that it's going to take a little while to consolidate and to recover and to bounce back. Okay, so just get it out of your head. A long position should be used with extreme caution. I opened a long position with my community here recently. We hit our first initial profit target. And we have a nice tight stop loss, so it's not really a big problem. But the general concept is that if you're going to take a long position right now, you want to ensure that you have a nice tight stop loss and that you are in a position where you can comfortably either lose that or just make sure you know that it's going to turn around in a second, okay? Because that's just kind of the market that we're in. And what's strange, and I wouldn't say it's all that strange, but it's less common, is on the weekends, we usually don't see this type of redness over the weekend. We usually see like a lot more consolidation. The price kind of goes sideways or increase from here. But it goes to show that a lot of other traditional consumers, so to speak, are also selling their positions, okay? So again, the whales are not playing, so to speak, right now, but there are still some big players, obviously, selling their positions and driving the price down further. All right, so that's where we're at. Let's go ahead and just summarize one last thing here. So this is the 4-hour chart. Let's go ahead and just double check a quick couple things and call it a day. Obviously, we're well under both moving averages. Big surprise, we're under 30 on the RSI again. And we're ultimately looking like we could see a potential shift in momentum here, of course, because obviously we got this little green candle occurring right now. I wouldn't get your hopes up on that. We need a lot more green candles. And we're not out of the clear, okay? That's just the bottom line. No matter how nice the micro looks, it's going to take a couple weeks worth of good micro behavior to effectively impact the macro, okay? And just bear in mind, we still have room for downtrend on the weekly because we are not even close to 30 on the RSI yet. I mean, we're trending closer. We're at about 35. That's definitely closer than it is to 50, but generally speaking, until we get that bounce off of 30 on the RSI on the 1 week, we really have no reason to consider this to be any shift in momentum. So I'd say that'd probably be a good indication of a turnaround, is to have some consistency on the RSI on the 1 week and have the price kind of working its way back up. Have more volume at the support level here at 33,500, and that's all going to take time. Okay, we cannot expect that to happen overnight. We're not going to see it on the weekend. So this next week is going to be a really big deal breaker, so to speak. But just bear in mind, it's probably going to continue to digress based on all the news that's going to occur this week and next, right? With inflation, etc. That's really playing a big factor, as well as other elements in the world that are occurring. Okay, and as time progresses, Bitcoin and or just in general cryptocurrency is impact just as much, if not more, than these other coins, because you got to understand this is kind of a secondary market. Yes, it's a big money maker for a lot of people, but you got to understand also, traditional stock market takes precedent. When the stock market does poorly, this is going to do even worse, if that makes any sense, right? It's kind of like an exaggerated version of the market. Plus world events too. It's starting to become more impacted on everything. And that's just something we got to understand as well, because there's so many more players in the game now than there was 3, 4, 5 years ago, that a lot of these world events are causing these extreme ripples, and it's just going to be one of those problems that's just going to continue. So try to be mindful of that. Also note too, with the more people trading, we're not seeing like the 4-year cycle, for example, we're not seeing it as exaggerated as it has in the past. Okay, and you have more players in the game, you have more money circulating. You're going to find a diminishing return, and then that's going to change and shift the dynamic. So with that sentiment in place, our low shouldn't be as extremely as severe as before, because I think in most cases our 4-year cycle, we dropped 85%. I don't think we're going to see 85% from the top which was close to right around, just say 70,000 as a round number, 69, we shouldn't see 85% drop from there. We'll probably see more like, 60, 65%, or perhaps maybe even a little less, because again, we didn't see this large surge that should have happened recently to drive us up to six figures, because of the fact that, again, there's a lot more going on in the world now than there was 4 or 8 years ago. Again, just some concepts to understand and kind of think about. But all in all, we're not in dire straits. This is a pretty standard Bitcoin stuff. I mean, we've seen this before. I mean, if you've been in the industry for a little while, you would know that this isn't the first time this happened. If you're new to the industry, be prepared. This is a very common characteristic of trading in crypto market. It's those large gains and those large losses, right? The important thing is to minimize that and to pick your right wins and to limit your losses, okay? And that's where my trading community comes into play, and everyone's we're all learning and growing together. It's an amazing experience. So I do highly recommend, if you need a leg up in the industry, kind of bounce some ideas off other folks. It's a great place and good resource. And I also provide trading signals for every single trade that I take. And I'll be honest, there haven't been a lot of trades here recently, just based on the simple fact the market has been on a significant downtrend. Yes, we had a nice short position. We hit all of our profit targets, all 5 of them, but I try not to short too often until we have a definitive understanding of the market. And until we test 29,000, I'm still more neutral on the market. If we lose 29,000, yes, we can consider it perhaps a bearish market, but I still don't think it's going to be as severe as previous years too, right? Again, just some theory, some thought processes there. But I hope you learned something here today. If you did, comment below. If not, that's okay too. Hopefully you can learn something in the future. And of course, if you want more of a hands-on experience, I got a trading academy rolling out with that month end. We're transitioning to a website platform with a membership login, and it's all going to be a much more user-friendly experience. So thank you so much to all my current community members for all of your patience and all of your support as well. This is an amazing thing, and I'm happy to be here with you. So thanks again. We'll look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon.